Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. So today's video is centered around a full glam look. You know when you want to top the place? Yeah, that we are dealing with today. So we're going to start with mattifying or powdering down our eyebrows just so we have a flat and smooth and oil-free base to work with. After that, we want to brush our eyebrow hairs up, and then we're going to proceed to drawing our brows. So as much as this looks like I'm going fast, this part actually takes so long to do because I cannot draw eyebrows to save my life. Them ugly bad. I always say this, when me draw eyebrow, them ugly bad, but you have to do it nonetheless. After that, we want to take our spoolie just to make sure our product is even throughout our brows. Alright, so moving on to concealer, we want to conceal above and below our eyebrows just to make them look sharp and crisp. Remember I said before, I cannot draw my eyebrows to save my life. I cannot. But concealing them really helps me to define the shape of my eyebrow and just correct any mistakes I made during the drawing process. So this is what really saves me. Thank God for concealer, or your girl would be walking around with two big junk up on her eyebrow. So after putting down that concealer, we want to blend it out with a fluffy brush. So a small eyeshadow brush is fine. Now, moving on to my favorite part of doing my makeup, we're going on to eyeshadow. So first we want to prime our eyelids with our LA Girl Flat White Concealer, and right now we're blending that out so that we have a nice smooth and dry enough canvas to work with to create our little masterpiece. Alright, so to start out, we want to use our yellow shadow from the Zulu palette as a nice crease color. So that would be the first color we put down because we're going to do some fancy blending. So we want to put down a neutral color. So yellow is fine. You don't want to start out with a purple or a blue because it's hard to blend out. You want to start with a color that's pale enough and forgiving enough to do what you need to do. So now we're moving on to the orange shade in the palette. So as you realize, we started with the lightest shade first That's how a blend is done. Start with the lightest shade first and then you just build it up from there. Alright, and then we want to move on to a brown shade. Now this brown shade is supposed to give us the darkness and definition we need in the crease. So I realized that we lost some of the orange, so we're going to bring that back right now. In blending, I realized that the brown shade that I used wasn't dark enough, so I picked up another palette. This is the Warrior 1 palette from Juvia's place, and we're going to place that dark brown shade in the crease so that we have a defined crease. So moving on to cutting the crease. This is a technique I saw on Instagram and I decided to try it out. And I realized that I liked it, so I'm going to use it more often. So what you do, instead of cutting your crease with concealer just like that, you want to take a Q-tip and any makeup remover just to wipe away or to create your cut crease using the Q-tip. So what I like about it is that I can create a cut crease shape even before cutting my crease with concealer. So now we're cutting the crease with the same flat white concealer that we used on our eyelids as primer, and we're going to just follow that same shape that we made with the makeup remover and the Q-tip. So it should be fairly simple for you to just follow that outline. So now we're going to use a shimmery shade from the same Warrior 1 palette, and we're going to place that on our eyelids. No, my lights were a bit too bright, so you can't really see it. So that is a shimmer shade, it just looks white, but it is a shimmer shade. So after that, we want to take that same brown shade that we put in the crease just to border the edges of our cut crease. Now for the fun stuff, what we're going to do is to put some glitter primer on our cut crease or our eyelids, and then we're going to use, this is an Irradecent glitter. I don't remember where I got it from, but we're just going to place that glitter using a brush right on our eyelids. Simple stuff. So I'm going to do it to one side and then you'll see me doing it to another side. You want to do it in sections as well, because by the time you reach to the next side, the primer might have dried. So it makes sense to just work in sections. So this wasn't full glam enough for me. I'm extra. I decided to go ahead with some chunky glitter. So because of the composition of chunky glitter, what you want to do is to use your fingers. I find that when I use a brush, it doesn't give me the same result. Whenever I use a brush, the glitter sometimes falls off. Sometimes it's patchy in some sections. I find when I use my fingers, I get a more even application. So because it's chunky glitter, some of it was caught in my eyelash, so I used my spoolie to just remove it, to brush it away. So now it's time for eyeliner. What we want to do is to place a thin line as close as possible to our eyelashes. Simple stuff. and no look is ever complete without lashes. So with all that glitter on our face, I opted to use just a wet wipe to get all that excess glitter off. As usual, we want to moisturize. So after allowing that moisturizer to dry down and to sink in our skin, we want to go ahead with our primer. And you know my primer is Calamine Lotion, so we're just going to put it right around our nose because that's where I get oily. So wherever you get oily, that's where you want to put it. So now for foundation, my new favorite is the Juvia's Place foundation, and I'm in the shade 140. But it was looking just a little bit light, so I mixed it with a bit of 130, and that's the darker shade. As usual, we want to work in sections. We want to lay the foundation down and then we're going to blend it out. We want to blend in tapping motions. We don't want to swipe, because if we swipe, we'll create streaks. So we want to tap that foundation in our skin. For smaller areas like my nose and my forehead, I like to go in with a smaller stippling brush. So that's a suggestion you guys can take up for your small sections like your forehead. Just use a smaller brush. So for my chocolate girls out there, we know that our neck is the darkest part of our bodies. So we just want to make sure everything blends properly, and we want to blend that foundation down to our neck. Alright? Please, may I beg you. Because people out here walking with them neck and them face not matching. Do me a beg you know. Make sure on the neck match on the face. So for concealer, we're moving on to our oldie but goodie, and this is our LA Girl Pro Concealer in the shade Beautiful Bronze. So that's our first highlight shade. So we want to place that shade anywhere we want to push forward. So that's under our eyes, above our lip, on our chin, our nose, and a little bit on the forehead. And then we're going to blend that out with a brush. We want to go in with a brush first, and then afterwards, to maximize on our blend, we're going to move on to a sponge. So you want to take your time to blend. Take your time. You don't want a patchy mess, so you want to take your time. So the brush did most of my blending for me, so I want to blend the edges with the sponge. So as you realize where you see a distinct mark between the foundation and the concealer, that's where we want to blend out with this sponge. So now we're going to move on to our second shade of concealer. So we want to apply dots of this. We don't want to go overboard. So we're going to start with our brush as we did before, and then we're going to end with our sponge, just to blend out the edges. One important point to note is I left the concealer on my nose there just so it could dry down and define a shape for my nose. So you know that pointed nose, we'll try to get one of that. So we'll have to leave the concealer there for a longer period of time than what we left the other concealers for, just so we can ensure a pointy nose, or the shape of a pointy nose. So the brightness I was looking for, I was getting that from the concealer that I used before. So I'm going to define that pointy nose again, and I'm going to place just a little bit under my eyes. And you want to use the tiniest amount, the smallest amount. Remember, it's a brown girl concealer and we're a dark skin chocolate princess. We need to be very light-handed when we're doing this part. So moving on to contouring, we're going to take our Juvia's Place Shade Stick. This is the darkest one, and we're going to place it right where our cheekbones are and a little bit on the nose. Normally it'd go on the forehead as well, but because I laid my edges, there's no need for that. So we're going to blend it first with a brush. I don't think we use sponges for contour, so no, we won't be using a sponge. We'll just use the same brush, and this brush is angled so we can turn the next side and blend out our nose contour. So just to blend out the concealer on my nose, I'm going to take a very small fluffy brush. So to define our cheekbones even more, we're going to take our same sponge and just define the lower part of our contoured areas. So to set our highlighted areas, we're going to take our Sacha Pro Powder palette, and we're going to use a shade right there that's highlighted just to set anywhere we placed concealer. So that's under our eyes, our chin, our nose, and our forehead. At this point, I even decided to set right below our cheekbones right there to define them even more. So because we used a cream contour, we want to set that cream with powder. So we're just going to use that shade right there to contour or to set our contour. Also, we're going to place some right at the sides of our nose just to set there as well. I implore you guys to double set. What I mean by double setting is to first use a pressed powder, and then you want to go ahead and use a loose powder to set your highlighted areas. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. What this does is to ensure the longevity of your makeup, and you want to put the pressed powder first to prevent flashback. After that, you want to take your setting spray. You want to spray it down just like that with all the powder on, and then you're going to take your beauty blender or your sponge just to pat that in the skin to ensure that the cream and the powder merges together. So the liquid concealer and the powder that we placed on top, they merge together now. Nice happy marriage. After that, we want to set again to make sure that everything is blended. Now it's time for blush. We want to take the same Warrior 2 palette, and we can choose any shade from here. All the shades are versatile, just to create a nice blush to look like we're always smiling. Now for shimmery highlights, we're going to take our Wet n Wild highlighter, and any highlighter will do. I don't see any grand difference in highlighters, and we want to place that for the cheek right where we smile, and a little bit on the chin, just at the tip of the nose and the bridge, and that's it. So it wasn't shining enough for me, so I used a loose highlighter on top. In adding highlighter, I lost some of the blush, so we're just going to bring it back. So we're going to add some color to our lower lash line. We're going to add a little blue from our Jamrock palette. So that blue shade was a bit too dark for me, so to lighten it up, we're going to use that teal color from our Zulu palette, just so we can have a balance under the eyes. And for an added pop, we're going to place that blue shimmery shade in our teared up area. I almost forgot what that part was a while ago, so bear with me. So to define our lower lashes, we're going to put some mascara down there. Nothing fancy, just some mascara to show that we have eyelashes down there. So we're almost finished, and we're going to add one more spray to the face. I don't know, I just like spray my face. I just need that. So for lips, we're just going to take an ordinary brown pencil from Mr. Chin. And then after that, you want to take your favorite lip gloss. Mine has a little bit of tint to it. We're just going to place it on our lips. It was a little bit too dark for me, so I'm going to place another one on top. And we're done. So watch the magic now. Yeah, girl. Feel yourself, sis. You, girl. You nice body. Watch it, girl. Nicey. So this is the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.